There is a coordinated effort by the feminist movement to get you to hate babies, and it is honestly shocking to me. Let me just say this. If you, as a woman, hate babies, there is something fundamentally wrong with you. Today on the show, we're tackling all of the lies brought to you by the girl with the list trend and all of the propaganda to convince women that pregnancy, childbirth, and motherhood is something to run away from. Plus, new insane headlines from our friends in the UK about men being put into women's societal positions in the most shocking ways possible, this time female genital mutilation, yeah. And is Meta doing a severe 180 pivot on finally protecting free speech? Let's figure it all out today on the Isabel Brown Show. I don't know if you guys are seeing this, but about a year and a half ago, I started seeing this trend become a hallmark staple of my TikTok For You page, and now has taken over my Instagram feed, my YouTube algorithm, and pretty much everything else in mainstream media. And it's this concept called the girl with the list. The whole concept stems from a TikTok idea that this girl came up with to create an entire account building a consecutive list of all of the reasons to never want to experience pregnancy, childbirth, or motherhood, because, of course, as a woman, it's going to ruin the rest of your life. And now there have been hundreds of other lists that have popped up all over the internet, each with their own hundreds of reasons for why pregnancy, childbirth, and motherhood is something to be avoided at all costs. This concept has now become a really trendy talking point, and every time you see something online about the less glamorous or not so glamorous side of parenting, getting spit up on, your baby blowing out their diaper, the rough parts of childbirth, there are hundreds of comments on Instagram posts or TikTok videos asking, where is the girl with the list? Presumably to add this exact scenario to everyone's expectations of how horrible parenting actually is for your mental health, your physical health, your relationships, and anything else in your life. Let me be abundantly clear as we're jumping into this subject on the show today. Marriage and motherhood is a very specific vocation. It's a calling for the rest of your life, and it's not meant for every single person. It's just not. And furthermore, your life isn't completely void of meaning or decrepit from joy if you are not currently a wife or a mom. So don't hear me say that when we unpack this subject today. But one of, if not the greatest single contributing factors to women's health and happiness and life, and a greater sense of purpose over our next several decades in young adulthood especially, is marriage and motherhood. We even saw a new study emerge just this week proving that marriage and motherhood statistically makes women twice as likely to be happy throughout our lifetime. And the mainstream media actually was putting out headlines and articles supporting this very data, forcing themselves to admit that their normal fear-mongering, insane propaganda just isn't cutting it for women anymore because it's not based in reality whatsoever. But there is still, in 2025, and has been for the last several years, this bizarrely sinister social campaign to try to get women to hate kids, which is wild to me, beyond wild to me, because it's unnatural to who we are as women. And this campaign is freakishly working. This young woman who has now dedicated her entire life to being the girl with the list openly brags now on social media, boasting 1 million followers to boot, about how she is so happy to be responsible for one of the biggest contributions to America's declining birth rate. Don't take my word for it. Just listen to what she has to say.
No, because being a woman without kids right now at this point in history, it is the best, most exclusive club to be a part of. We are living the lives that so many of our ancestors, the women who came before us, wanted to live, but literally couldn't. They couldn't even dream of having the freedom that we have created for ourselves. And according to the worst of the worst, according to Elon Musk, JD Vance, we are public enemy number one. We are the biggest threat to their lifestyle, their livelihood, and thus they attack us, they belittle us. But it's because they're scared of us. We hold the birth rate in the palm of our hands. And if it continues to drop, they will have no choice but to restructure and reallocate funds to women having babies. So we are literally actively making things better and creating benefits for the women who come after us. And for all the women out there who do want kids. It feels so good.
Thank God. Thank God. I am the crusader for every generation of women who came before me who didn't want kids. Incidentally, had they not ended up having kids, which I suppose they wanted, you wouldn't exist, girl with the list. So riddle me that one. Thank God we are taking away power from people like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who just want you to be pregnancy slaves forever. And I'm so happy I am the one directly contributing to the next generation's lack of desire to want kids in the first place. This girl is insane, and truly all of her reasons to not have kids are insane, which we'll get into here in just a second. But it is spreading like wildfire. It is causing a social epidemic of young women who are being conditioned to hate children. Now she has started to make videos with other TikTokers and other young women around her same age that brag about the fact that we will never have to go through the horrible parts of motherhood. Watch this.
Things we're happy we never have to do.
I never have to give birth.
Oh, period.
I never have to push a human child out of my body.
No.
And you know what? You're so right, bestie.
I never
You're
have
so
to do
right.
that. Natural, unmedicated.
Nope.
None of it.
Nope.
Eat a placenta.
Oh.
No, I'm only
They make
eating
placentas?
polenta. I'm not eating no placenta. It's not happening.
I'm
I'm very happy that I never have to wake up at the crack of dawn to take a kid to soccer practice.
So
And then they forget
true.
them at home. So I have to drive back.
Nope.
Pick up the cleats, drive back. No.
I never have to chaperone a school dance.
Ooh.
I never have to go up to two teenagers grinding on each other and tell them to leave room for Jesus.
Oh. No.
That's not how I'm going to spend my Friday night.
I'm really happy that I don't have to like tell someone you can't hold my baby.
Oh.
Awkward.
Please don't kiss my baby.
Ooh.
And if you do that, I'll have you drawn and quartered.
Whoa.
I never have to ruin the whole Santa Claus thing for a child. First of all, have them believe in this mystical figure anyway.
That was all Santa?
That was all Santa.
That
That
was
wasn't
me.
mommy.
No, that
Right.
was mom.
No. And then I don't have to like break their hearts as I tell them that it was all a lie.
Babe, you still got the gifts.
Right. Like I don't know why we were crying.
Yeah.
It's giving extreme selfishness. I, for one, am so glad that I never have to lay awake at night wondering if I'm a horrible human being because I'm so unbelievably selfish that I can't bother to get up early in the morning to help my children go to soccer practice, or that I have lied to myself, I've propagandized myself, and I've allowed myself to be gaslit by wannabe influencers on the internet by telling me pregnancy and childbirth are this horrible thing that you should avoid at all costs, because the truth is, my childbirth experience was the single most spiritual, enlightening experience I've ever undergone in my entire life. I felt closer to God in that hospital room than at any other point in my faith journey up until this point. And it was beautiful. 12 out of 10 recommend. Would do again and plan on doing again multiple times throughout my life. And what's really disgusting to me about this particular girl on TikTok especially is that she's clearly just personally profiting off of her specific crusade to get women to hate children. She has now come out with a merch line, a t-shirt brand, specifically saying, take your birth control to women, and posting little thirst traps of herself all over the internet because she wants to make money off of convincing you family sucks. Again, don't take my word for it. Look at her own account in which she is advertising these t-shirts. Watch this. And these are the same people who then accuse people like me of being paid shills of some sort of natalist propaganda to force women to be pregnancy slaves for the white man. I mean, come on, give me a break. But whether it's this girl with the list trend all over TikTok, headlines like this one in the Los Angeles Times, it is almost shameful to want to have children in the mainstream media, or even official public health warnings from our last Surgeon General telling the next generation of adults that it is dangerous for you to have children. It is dangerous for you to be a parent for your mental health, obviously, because it turns out making more human beings makes you more lonely, according to the experts in our society. All of these things are contributing together to push a very clear agenda to get you to hate babies, as men and women, but especially women, which for the record is just straight up weird. Okay? You are specifically a product of propaganda if you hate babies. It is wildly unnatural and anti-human, especially anti-woman. We are programmed to love babies. It's why we love kittens and puppies and everything small and squishy and cute. And if you look at a baby today in 2025 and you immediately think, ew, that's going to ruin my life, take your birth control, there is something fundamentally wrong with you. And you should evaluate your mental health like yesterday. Just for the record, that's a side tangent, but it reigns very, very true today. And we know this is working because literally just this week, NBC News put out a poll asking Gen Zers from age 18 to 29 what their biggest priorities in their adult life happen to be. And the anti-baby woman propaganda is working on the next generation of young women. I saw this first come across my Twitter feed when Matt Walsh tweeted about it. Shout out to our other Daily Wire hosts. And he specifically was analyzing the gender gap between men and women's desire to have children. Turns out the number one priority for men in America, age 18 to 29 today, is to have children. That would mark a successful adulthood experience. But that was the least highly ranked priority, the lowest of the totem pole for young women today, aged 18 to 29. And it's hard to wonder why, just kidding, when every single piece of propaganda in our society, from the education system to our TikTok influencers, to the mainstream media, to experts in academia, and everywhere else is telling us that a baby is something to be afraid of or to hate, rooted in an extreme level of selfishness, saying that you are the main character in your life and there's no room for you to share it with anyone else. When you start pulling these individual lists, by the way, I mentioned there are several. I have no idea how many of them are out there, but all of them have 400, 500, 600 plus reasons why you should never want to have children. The actual reasons that they list are the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in my life, starting with that extreme selfishness that I just mentioned. I pulled one list with about 500 reasons to not have kids, and these were included in the lineup. Number 45, I like my me time. Sure, I do too, but that doesn't mean I never want to be a mom. And number 46, I like my me space. How about this one? Number 103, my sex life will be different after I have kids. It will most likely spiral downwards. I hate that that's your expectation, to be honest, because literally every study ever conducted on this proves that married religious women with children statistically have the best sex lives of all women out there from every demographic. And yeah, it might be a little different, but who's to say it couldn't be better? Just throwing that out there. Number 37, children are a nightmare if you're not a morning person. Because how dare we dig a functional grown adult out of bed in the morning to live a successful, happy, productive lifestyle? Number 15, your vacations are better without children. I haven't taken a vacation with my 4-month-old daughter yet, although I'm excited to. And something tells me it's actually going to be substantially better, because if I've learned anything about having a child up to this point, kids slow you down for all the right reasons, to stop and smell the flowers, to take your time, to see them fall in love with the world through their own eyes. And I'm dying to experience that on a vacation with my kid. Number 99, here's a selfish one for you. You can't get any action for 6 weeks after pregnancy. We should do a whole episode on this at some point, but one of the biggest lies that has been shoved in the faces of young women is that you have a human right to have sex. You are entitled to have sex. There is nothing entitlement-oriented about your right to someone else's body, and we shouldn't be treating the most intimate action between two people that's worth celebrating and cheering on, by the way, in the right context, as getting action. It's disgusting and commodifies women. Number 31, your body will never be the same. I certainly have experienced that, but I look at my squishy tummy and sometimes I wish I had some stronger abs, and I'm working on that on my Peloton bike and doing Pilates every day. But I'm so unbelievably grateful I created another human life inside of my body. That is infinitely cooler to me than whatever the number on the scale is or whatever my tummy looks like in the mirror. And also on these lists are ridiculous things that could just be true anyway or are so obviously true, but you're using them as a reason to not go through pregnancy. Number 70, after giving birth, your uterus will shrink back down to its original size within days after childbirth, which can be painful. Yes, actually, that's quite miraculous. Like, how insane is it that your body actually works that way? Number 7, you have to deliver the placenta, which could be painful. Let me just tell you, woman to woman, I had no idea I even delivered the placenta. I was so focused on giving birth to my baby, felt nothing. No bad experiences whatsoever. So stop listening to the fear mongering on the internet. Number 431, you could get nauseated if you don't eat your pregnancy cravings. I get nauseous if I just don't eat anyway. And now we're using this as a propaganda talking point to get women to hate babies? Seriously? Like, these things are true anyway. It is ridiculous what they will come up with to convince you that lies are now truth and what is ugly is now beautiful. And of course, there are completely untrue things on all of these lists because we have to lie to women to go against our innate maternal instincts and our innate desire to want families. Number 61, having kids is a luxury only the wealthy can afford. Not remotely true. Number 10, the world is already overpopulated, which we have proven not to be true how many hundreds of times in the last 6 months to a year, showing that we actually have a significant fertility crisis in the world and we quite literally can't replace our current population. But again, I digress, and I'm sure we'll do a whole episode of just that. I'm sick and tired of every single misleading talking point, twisted narrative, obvious reality that really isn't that bad being blown out of proportion, and outright lie that is being shoved down the throats of the next generation specifically to get us to revoke the idea of ever wanting to fall in love and to bring new life into the world. Because the truth is, it's not something to shy away from. It's something to be enamored by. Not that everyone has to do it, but it's okay if you do. And in fact, it's better than okay. It's beautiful if you do, because the family is the bedrock, not just of society, but of God's design for humanity. And I'm so excited to see so many other content creators and people with platforms all having babies roughly at exactly the same time. I had my daughter in April. Candace Owens just had another baby. Brett Cooper just had another baby. So there's a lot talking about this in the conservative movement. And there is one specific young woman whose pregnancy I have been enamored by over the past few months, especially in her willingness to be so candid about how beautiful it is. And that's our friend Riley Gaines. I'm so excited to bring Riley onto the show today and to ask her about some really beautiful parts of her pregnancy. Let's bring her in right now. Joining us on the show today is a longtime friend of our Isabel Brown community, my beautiful friend Riley Gaines, who I hear is just days away from giving birth to a beautiful baby girl of her own. Riley, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, please. Well, thank you. I am so excited to be able to talk with you. Outside of a lot of the what I have found myself talking about these past few years, the gender insanity, the good things in life, which is motherhood. So very, very excited. And congratulations to you on this new venture. Very, very deserving.
Thank you, Riley. And you're right. It is a good thing for us to be talking about, which is a huge theme of my show. And really the game plan that I want moving forward is to get us away from talking about all of the bad things that we are solving one day at a time, but also to give us a path forward with all of the good, beautiful things that we should strive for. Update us on all of the things pregnancy. Where are you at right now? How are you feeling? And then I really want to get your take on this whole girl with the list concept and how our society treats pregnancy too.
Oh my gosh. Well, where to start? It's a crazy stat. I was thinking to myself this morning, we had, once you get to like the last month of pregnancy, you have OB appointments every single week. And so we had our weekly appointment this week. As it is now, I'm 38 weeks pregnant. So we're really rounding out. And so going to the doctor, and I was talking to my husband in the car. It is amazing to me that I have been pregnant longer than Donald Trump has been the 47th president of the United States of America. Like, think of that. Like, think of the past 9 months, everything that he's accomplished, everything that he's done, the speed and the efficiency of which him and his cabinet, his administration has worked with. And this whole time I've just been like growing and developing a human. It's pretty crazy. And again, I think it speaks to how much he's done in that amount of time. How I have felt, oh my gosh, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's being fit. I don't know if it's being conscious of my health. I don't know if it's being an athlete prior to pregnancy or what. I have, Isabel, had the easiest pregnancy you could possibly imagine. And I thank God for it every single day. I'm talking from when I found out I was pregnant to, again, now at 38 weeks, I've had no symptoms hardly, other than the fact that my pants don't fit. Other than the fact I have to pee all the time. I think she's using my bladder as like a punching bag. I pee like 5 times in the middle of the night. That drives me crazy. And there was a few weeks in the second trimester where I would get like pretty intense Charlie horses in my calves when I was sleeping. But that's literally it. I've been able to continue on with, truthfully, travel, which don't tell my OB. I know there's like a recommended day you're not supposed to get on a plane anymore. But I mean, I was in Dallas last week, still flying on airplanes. I'm still running. I'm still lifting, exercising. Like, I have had the easiest pregnancy thus far. And so now I'm just excited. Like, it's like kind of unbearable, the thought of, you know, knowing what she will look like, or how much is she going to weigh, or whose mannerisms will she eventually take after. Like, all of those, the things you wonder are starting to really creep into my mind, and they're making these last few weeks feel like an eternity.
You posted a TikTok video the other day in response to all of the hatred you were randomly getting from the internet, who apparently says it's endangering your pregnancy if you keep working out or swimming to Alcatraz, which is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. But basically, you were saying that it's possible to have a beautiful, happy, thriving pregnancy, not to minimize other people's experiences with morning sickness or different pains and aches that you might have during pregnancy. Walk us through what you were trying to say there, because it really resonated with me, and I think provides a much different path forward for women who are thinking about getting pregnant in their life.
Well, 100%. You're right. This came after I swam Alcatraz, which this is something that I've done the past few years. We have this awesome way. Really, it's a way to honor Navy SEALs and our U.S. service members who have, I mean, oftentimes these are people who are severely wounded. We swam with a guy who was missing his right arm, right leg. Like, these are people who have sacrificed everything to serve our country. And so really, it's a way to honor them. And so what we do, we take a boat out to the island of Alcatraz, where the prison is, and we swim back to the San Francisco Bay shore. It's about a 2-mile swim. Again, I did this prior to pregnancy, but this year we did it in July, which I happened to be 7 months pregnant. But that wasn't going to stop me, because as I just told you, I've had the easiest pregnancy ever. Talked to my OB. He approved this. It was amazing to see like the internet doctors, the internet OBGYNs come out of the woodworks to tell me how I was endangering my child. Number one, this was coming from people who, for the most part, are totally cool with late-term abortions. So suddenly they cared about my child, which I found to be interesting, but whatever. Again, number one, talk to my OB. It was cleared. I think my baby, like the little girl that I'm growing in my stomach, like I think she feels more pain and pressure when I like cough or sneeze than she did when I was swimming that I guess event. So whatever. The idea from this video came from, number one, the pushback I got from that. And number two, this entire pregnancy, I've had people tell me, actually specifically women tell me, just wait, right? I'll be telling them of what's going on and this and that. And they say, oh, but just wait until this. Just wait until, you know, you're in that 3rd trimester and you can't sleep, or just wait until the baby's here. Make sure you're getting all your sleep now. And I've kind of had a problem with that, because again, up until now, I have just waited for all the things they say are going to happen, and none of them have happened to me, truthfully. And so it kind of prompted. And to your point, that what you said, like, it's not to minimize those who do have struggles or do experience the fatigue or the morning sickness or whatever other symptoms come typically with pregnancy, but it's to let, I think, especially young people, young women who maybe want to start their family or maybe continue growing their family, to let them know, like, there are good pregnancies and we shouldn't be ashamed to say it. And so that's kind of where the idea from that video came from. And what I found actually was in the comment section, there were tons of women who said, thank you for saying this. Like, I've had a really easy pregnancy too. And I've been scared to talk about it because I don't want to, offend someone else who's had a hard pregnancy or whatever it is.
Yes.
So it was kind of cool to like build that community of us women who have had, pretty struggle-free pregnancies.
No, I love that because especially the last few days before I gave birth to my daughter, you're spending a lot of time on the internet, you're watching a lot of TikTok, like you're trying to slow yourself down a bit before this big event. And every video I saw on social media was the worst fear-mongering I could have ever imagined about birth. And I'm generally a pretty level-headed person about all of these things, especially medical stuff. I've had pretty major surgeries before, but I started to get a little apprehensive and anxious about the entire experience. And I wish I could go back and tell myself 2 days before birth how awesome the whole experience was going to be. I showed up to the hospital at 3:30 in the morning. She was out at 11:36 in the morning. I had a totally pain-free delivery. It was absolutely spectacular. And I'm sure we'll jump into that more on the show at some other point. But it was the most beautiful day of my life and a truly spiritual day where I felt such a deep connection to God and participating in the creation of new life. And I wish more women had this framed this way because instead on the internet, I often see people treat pregnancy like a disability almost. And the singular narrative that it's going to destroy your health, it's going to destroy your body, it's going to destroy the rest of your life. Why would you ever want this? Makes me really sad. What's your take on that?
No, 100%. And that was kind of like the baseline of where I was coming from was like, look, I'm pregnant, not disabled. I'm still able to do the things that I was doing. Even this like push-up, pull-up challenge put in place by Secretary Hegseth and RFK recently of 100 push-ups, 50 pull-ups. At 36 weeks pregnant, I'm still able to knock it out. And again, I know that every pregnancy is different. And this isn't to say that even if my husband and I are blessed enough to get pregnant a second time eventually, it's not to say that that pregnancy will be just like this one. But I think it's to a degree, number one, your fitness baseline. So I would encourage, especially young women, if you're looking to start a family, get as fit as you possibly can prior. And I do think that helps, especially through pregnancy, through the labor and delivery process, being in tune with your body and a very self-aware person. With your muscles, I would imagine it helps with contractions and different things. So get fit prior to pregnancy. But then after that, stay fit. Do as much as you can, so long as, and I think if you're aware with enough with your body at that point, your body will tell you what you can and can't do, what feels good, what feels bad, what feels like it's ultimately a hindrance to you, whatever it is. So I love that kind of quote of, I'm pregnant, not disabled.
I know you've got a whole lot of nesting to do with your husband in the next couple of days while you're waiting for your baby girl. So we won't keep you too much longer. But the one thing I really do want to get your take on as we close out today is this idea of your body will never be the same. And I'm now 4 months postpartum. My body looks totally different than it did before. Not bad by any means. And people say, oh my gosh, no one would ever know you had a baby 4 months ago. But I see a difference when I look in the mirror. And I totally felt a difference when I was pregnant. But I never saw that as a bad thing necessarily. Like when I look at my softer tummy now, I just marvel at the fact that I grew a 6-pound human being in there and was able to safely bring her into the world. And different isn't necessarily a bad thing. So what's your take on that? What advice do you have for young women as they enter into that phase of their life? And do you expect your body to bounce back or be the same afterwards?
I think as you get older, naturally, again, whether you played a sport at a high level like I did or not, like you have to understand once you have, bared life, like your body is serving an entirely different purpose than it was before. And so it was hard for me, truthfully, like if I'm being entirely transparent, once I started to reach a point where it was like involuntary, the growing and the shifting and the pants not fitting and or whatever it was, like that was really hard because again, I've always been someone who's very in tune, very fit, very in shape. And to kind of relinquish control in that way, again, in a manner that I didn't want to necessarily. I look now, again, rounding out pregnancy, and it's the most miraculous, transformative, magical thing you could possibly imagine. And I will say too, I'm so blessed to have such an amazing husband who loves my body, who loves and admires like like truly there's like a level of adoration from my husband for how my body has changed and how it's again growing his daughter too. And so to have someone so supportive in your corner who, I mean, at every turn is telling me, you know, you're so beautiful. Thank you for doing this. Like all of the right affirmations, that has helped a lot with how I kind of view myself, my changing body. That's not to say that after pregnancy, I'm not going to get right back to it, because I imagine I will. The running, and I'm already signed up for like an Ironman and all kinds of different stuff. Like, but I love the competitive nature
Riley
side
Gaines,
of things. Exactly. But there's such joy in hopefully being able to bring her along for some of that too, whether it's walks, runs, being outside with her and my husband, my family. I think there's such joy in that. And so I can't wait.
Yeah. Well, you are basically a real life superhero, but growing life, period, is a superpower. And I'm so grateful for your voice, being able to inspire so many young women not to buy into the fear mongering, but just to embrace this beautiful once in a lifetime opportunity we have to create new life through pregnancy. It is awesome to behold, and I'm so excited for you. Is there any way our community can be praying for you guys as you get close to delivery of baby girl?
Man, I think it's just prayers for a healthy delivery, a healthy recovery, being able to integrate back into our lives in a manner that is first and foremost honoring God, keeping him at the center of everything. That's kind of the prayer that I've been praying over these past few weeks.
We love you guys so very much. I can't wait to get that first picture of your daughter and hopefully to give you guys a really big hug soon.
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Riley. Riley is literally just human sunshine, and that's why I've always loved her. She is the epitome of a happy warrior, even when things seem incredibly bleak, even when it feels like we will never win the fights in front of us. She always has a smile on her face, and she just keeps showing up. Literally, this woman deserves the Presidential Medal of Freedom, but that's a different crusade I will start another time. And I'm so excited for her to meet her daughter, but what she said there reigns so true with me. It reminds me of Jordan Peterson's whole analysis in the parenting series we have here on Daily Wire. Totally worth the watch, by the way, where he describes, yes, parenting is difficult. Having children is difficult. Your life will slow down. It will look different. But the joy and wonder and curiosity you have a renewed sense of as a grown-up in your own life, watching your children have experiences for the first time and fall in love with the world for the first time and analyze things in real time is completely unmatched by any other human endeavor we could possibly confront and go through in our lives. I certainly have experienced that up to this point. And again, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on parenting. My daughter is 4 months old and I'm figuring it out every single day, one foot in front of the other, and probably will feel the same way for the rest of my life. But if I could share any message with you countering the ridiculous propaganda of the girl with the list, it would be this. Pregnancy can be difficult. Sharing your body with another human being can, of course, be sometimes awkward and painful with aches and pains that we have never experienced before. Delivering a child and childbirth is indeed troubling and difficult and mentally requires so much fortitude. And it's never easy waking up with a baby at 2 a.m. when you've gotten 45 minutes of sleep for several weeks on end. But through this process, I have been softened. I'm more patient. I'm more joyful. I'm more loving. And I see the world through a completely different lens that I never would have experienced if I hadn't endured the uncomfortable growing pains, literally, of pregnancy, of postpartum, and now beyond into motherhood. It's reminding me that holiness is really about emptying of yourself to put the needs of others before yourself, to constantly pray for God's guidance and intercession in your life, that you will have the strength to show up, even if you don't think you can possibly open your eyes one more time in the middle of the night. And all of a sudden, sharing my life with someone else in such an intimate way is making me realize the importance of why I get up and I do what I do and I speak the truth and I make this content and I just show up joyfully in the world. It's not for me because I'm not the main character. And it's not even just for my husband. It's for my children and their children and every generation who comes after them. We have this very distorted, warped view of our culture that's been propagandized by everyone from the media to education and everything in between, that we are supposed to be selfish, that we are supposed to be the center point of our own lives, that everything is about our immediate needs, wants, etc., and nothing else matters. But what a sad, empty, godless way to live that I couldn't imagine ever wanting to hand on to the next generation, looking around at the sheer magnitude of anxiety and depression and suicidality and substance abuse and every other problem wreaking havoc across our society today. Maybe there's something to what we've known for thousands of years, that real joy and real purpose comes from being uncomfortable. And that discomfort is best exemplified when we put the needs of other people, especially our children, above our own. I love being a mom. I'm so excited for Riley to become mama to her beautiful baby girl here in just a few days and get to hug her and meet her for the first time. And whatever you're hearing from the girl with the list or anything else out there, especially on the internet, just tune it out. I promise you, life is so much more beautiful than the haters ever want you to believe it is. On that note, in culture's effort to get you to hate babies, I have to tell you something else that's been weighing on my heart for quite a long time. Since Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022, over 100 abortion clinics have, praise be to God, closed down across America. But the fight is really just beginning to protect the next generation of our babies. What's really breaking my heart right now is the fact that the abortion pill is everywhere. It's become the go-to option, making up for more than 60% of abortions in our country, and it's never been easier to access. You can log on to a telehealth conversation with a doctor who's never met you before, never have to take a pregnancy test, and get a pregnancy ending pill, what they're often calling the period pill on the internet today, aka the abortion pill, delivered to your house in the mail with no one ever knowing that this even happened. It's incredibly dangerous for women, and of course, it ends the life of a child every single time. But here's what gives me hope as a new mom myself. Preborn, an amazing organization, is out there fighting the fight every single day and saving about 200 babies every day, simply by loving these women facing unexpected pregnancy right where they're at and letting them see their baby through an ultrasound. There is a reason that women considering abortion who go to Planned Parenthood are often never even allowed to see the ultrasound screen, because when a mom sees her baby and hears that little heartbeat on the ultrasound, everything changes. I, for one, will never forget seeing Isla through the screen for the very first time. She was probably 10 or 11 weeks old, and she was actually waving at us with her little hand. We could count every single bone in her hand and could very clearly see that this was not just a random clump of cells, but was a beautiful, fully formed, unique human being who was a person from the very beginning of conception and the very beginning of her life. Every ultrasound after that only continued to get better and better and better. But that first moment is something, as a first-time mom, I will never forget. Here's the thing, and my call to action for you: just $28 covers the cost of one ultrasound. That is way less money than most people spend ordering dinner out, myself and my husband Brock included. But $28 gives a mom and her baby a real chance at life and to be a beautiful family forevermore. So I'm asking you personally, please, please, please join me in this fight. You can go to preborn.com/Isabel. That's preborn.com/Isabel, or pick up your phone and dial pound 250 and say out loud the keyword baby. That is pound 250 baby. Together, we can save lives, one mom and one baby at a time. Switching gears a little bit, I have to talk to you guys about maybe the most insane headline I've ever come across in my career as a content creator. And that's saying something, because we've covered some really insane viral stories on the show and all of my short form content over the years. This one from The Telegraph, which I don't even want to butcher. I have to read it verbatim, so I have it pulled up in front of me. It's from The Telegraph from this week. Trans women are at risk of female genital mutilation, claims College of Policing. Let's read that one more time together. Trans women at risk of female genital mutilation, claims the College of Policing. The byline of this article: inclusion of biological males in new guidance branded as insulting to real victims. Yeah, you don't frickin' say. Apparently, this article has now gone viral all over social media, but involves a whole lot of nuanced details, boiling down to the fact that trans women, let's do the math here because this is always very complicated, A, B, C, all of the things. Trans woman equals not biological woman equals biological man is at risk for female genital mutilation? Riddle me that one for a second. And there's a few things here to unpack before we get into all of the details. First and foremost, yes, some cultures are morally better than others. It is that simple. It is completely unacceptable to me reading through this very article that WHO experts, for example, estimate that up to 99% of women in countries like Somalia have undergone genital mutilation procedures. That is physical abuse of women simply because they are women. And the fact that this is even under debate is actually insane to me. Just goes to show how far our efforts to tolerate and include every idea in society actually are. But frankly, are we even much better in Western society when we are allowing and championing the literal genital mutilation of children and we just call it something fancier, gender-affirming care? I'm sure we'll unpack that at length in the next few days, but just had to get that out of the way. Some ideas are better than others. Some cultures are better than others. And we should absolutely feel comfortable drawing the line at the mutilation of the genitals of women. Period. Full stop. Can't even believe I have to say that. But this is important. The College of Policing, I didn't know what this was. I ended up doing some more research as I was reading the article, is a government-funded organization in England and Wales that specifically trains the vast majority of police officers in England and Wales. Whew, as if that couldn't possibly get any worse from everything we're seeing on the news, in the mainstream media, in social media, and everything else, where people are literally being put in handcuffs, dragged out of their flats, taken through the streets of all of the UK, and being locked up in prison for stuff like offensive tweets or defending yourself against a would-be rapist like we saw in Scotland a few days ago, or countless other examples that continue to just shock and amaze me how 1984 Orwellian the UK has actually gotten in 2025. So we are now seeing a government-funded organization, the College of Policing in the UK, issue guidance for police officers and training the next round of police officers in England and Wales that men, trans women, biological men, are at risk of female genital mutilation because these cultural ideas have become so mainstream in the UK. There are like 12 diversity and equity and inclusion stories all wrapped into this all at once. But for the sake of time, let's just say this. This is a massive slap in the face to biological women everywhere. It's disgusting to even insinuate that someone born, not to be graphic, but with a penis without the necessary equipment for female genital mutilation could be at risk of something like this. Basic biology we all learned in primary school. But it's especially a slap in the face to those who have actually suffered legitimate female genital mutilation. Like, we are quite literally undermining the suffering of thousands, if not millions of women alive all over the planet because we're so obsessed with trying to let men take over women's spaces all over Western civilization. What are we doing? Like, what is the end game here from the left? I have to believe it's only just creating as much chaos as humanly possible and then hoping the government will come swoop in and save the day. But I'm actually grateful for headlines like this and grateful for stories like this blowing up all over the internet, because it is the clearest possible window we could have about what we talked about yesterday, that the left is getting louder and louder and louder. They are being more and more honest and shoving it right in our faces on exactly what they want to accomplish to turn our society upside down. A story like this is totally on par for how the UK specifically is categorizing and legally treating women, and we see it across British culture. It just goes to show that British culture will cease to exist here in about 5 minutes if good people continue to be silent and if there's not some sort of a cultural rebellion to these insane, depraved, evil ideas that are threatening to replace the foundation of Western society. And not only that, not only will British culture be replaced, but innocent people, women, will continue to suffer at the hands of evil as female genital mutilation becomes mainstream with the arrival of cultural ideas and norms that have nothing to do with Western society, because the institutions and the experts and the people who are supposed to be protecting you are more worried about inclusive language than they are protecting innocent people at the end of the day. It is absolutely insane to me that we are even questioning if this is an evil practice. And if you think this will be localized to the United Kingdom, think again. This likely will become a mainstream idea all over the European Union and potentially Canada, the United States, Australia, New Zealand, and countless other places if we don't draw a line and say enough, not just to trying to put men into women's spaces, but more importantly, to protecting actual women from practices like female genital mutilation. And I have to just say, for a few minutes here, the stark contrast between how the UK is responding to stories like this and situations like this versus how the United States is handling issues like this because of our political leadership is unbelievable to behold. Considering how America is responding to men in women's spaces and protecting women in our own spaces and from predatory behaviors like female genital mutilation, I have never been more thankful for Donald Trump being the president of the United States. You can disagree with him on 8 million policy initiatives. You can dislike how he handles his Twitter account every once in a while. You can say that maybe you would tweak some things about what they've already accomplished with executive orders. But it is incredibly telling to me that among the very first few executive orders under Donald Trump's presidency in the 47th presidential administration, they handled topics like men in women's sports and in protecting women as biological women. Right away, at the State of the Union, for example, Donald Trump said he was going to make it abundantly clear what the U.S. policy was when it comes to gender identity. Don't take my word for it. These are his words.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female.
The GOAT. Not to mention, one of his very first executive orders was about protecting women's sports and saying, no more will we allow men to do this. Here's Donald Trump reiterating that over and over again, this time at the graduation ceremony for the University of Alabama last year.
And as long as I'm president, we will always protect women's sports. Men will not play in women's sports. No way.
Listen to those cheers. We love to see it from Gen Z, but it's so clear to me when the tone is set at the top for what is societally acceptable, when our nation's leadership says enough is enough and it's time to just get back to reality instead of insanity, it makes a complete cultural 180 turn. A year ago, you never would have seen the president of the United States spouting these ideas and speaking the truth to a world rejecting that very concept. And we probably would see a society that looks a lot more like the UK right now. So I'm watching this so-called tolerance and inclusion amid the UK's government, allowing men into women's sports, our bathrooms, our prisons, our OBGYN offices, and everywhere else, which ironically kicks out actual women from women's spaces. So Brits who happen to be watching the show, because I know there's a whole lot of you who follow our accounts, help a girl to understand what on God's green earth is going on across the pond. Are you okay? Blink twice if you need a savior. Send smoke signals. Do you want to be the 51st state? Let us know, please. Society owes it to women to keep us safe in our own spaces, and we owe it to ourselves to keep ourselves safe online as well, which is why I'm so excited to be partnering with Webroot. Webroot Total Protection is not just another cybersecurity product, but it's peace of mind for myself and for anyone who's living in today's digital world. I spend a lot of time in the digital space, and it's really forced me to start thinking about how I need to be protected for myself and all of my data online. It is vital to make sure that you are protected online, especially after incidents like the TransUnion data breach that impacted over 4 million people. You don't have to wait for your information to end up in the hands of all of the wrong people who will use it for bad. Webroot gives you identity protection for yourself and up to 10 family members and covers more than $1 million in fraud expense reimbursement and, importantly, offers 24/7 US-based customer support, including an elder fraud hotline specifically. Plus, it includes an all real-time antivirus firewall, a web threat shield, password managers, and unlimited cloud backup so that you are shielded from every single angle. Don't wait to have your data leaked to all of the wrong people online. You absolutely need to protect yourself now. With lightning fast scans, lightweight software, and lower annual costs over time, it is so easy to see how Webroot has a 90+% retention rate and has been trusted for over 25 years. Do not spend weeks resolving identity theft alone. Webroot Total Protection gives you total peace of mind whatever digital threats might come your way. You can get 50% off Webroot Total Protection or their Webroot Essentials when you go to webroot.com/Isabel. That is 50% off Webroot Total Protection or their Essentials at webroot.com/Isabel. Live a better digital life totally safely with Webroot. For the last few minutes of the show, I'm dying to unpack this article with you guys. You know that one of my biggest crusades as a happy warrior in the conservative movement has been in the fight to protect our free speech, not just standing on an apple crate on the sidewalk, shouting out into the random void all of your most hot take opinions, although you should keep doing that as well. And we need more apple crate debates happening on America's streets, okay? So let's revive that. But also right here, right where you're watching on social media and in the digital space. If you've been following me for a couple of years, you'll know that I have not made a ton of friends, especially in right-wing politics over the past 2 years and in the conservative movement as sort of the movement's resident TikTok apologist, fighting for digital free speech on Gen Z's favorite platform. I was shocked to know, by the way, that our generation actually uses TikTok as a search engine more than we do Google. So when we're fighting for digital free speech, it's not just what we're posting, it's actually all of the info that we are consuming as well. But I didn't mind making enemies in that conversation, and I didn't mind taking some political flack because it mattered, and it still does. Because the modern public square is not just the street corner, it's our digital platforms as well, and where we're having these conversations on podcasts, on live streams, on Reels and TikTok videos, YouTube Shorts, tweet threads, and everything in between. And since we saw the introduction to ban TikTok in America, we also saw the platform kind of do a major 180 on censorship, me being a perfect anecdotal example of that. You guys know I've often called my TikTok account the Lazarus of TikTok accounts because I think it's been permanently deleted and then resurrected from the dead 6 or 7 times now, and we constantly are fighting that battle. But for the last year and a half or so, really the 6 months leading up to Election Day and beyond, I have had so much support from the TikTok team, like picking up the phone and calling me and walking me through their community guidelines, making sure I knew that they wanted voices like mine on the platform, and asking me to share that information with all of you and other creators so that the info gets out there. I have had an amazing experience, and I'm really excited to start seeing other social media platforms take a very similar path, especially since Inauguration Day in January. So now we're starting to see Meta specifically take a similar path to dramatically changing how they police content on the platform and how they go out of their way to protect and resurrect the concept of free speech on Meta. In case you don't know this, or maybe it's not immediately obvious, Meta is the umbrella company that governs Facebook, Instagram, and importantly, WhatsApp, which we often don't think about from an American lens, but for the rest of the world is typically how you text. You don't use iMessage, you use WhatsApp. So how you communicate with one-on-one conversations or group texts or how you send articles, all of these things are under the umbrella of Meta. And we've all had a really frustrating few years associated with all of that. We could do a whole podcast episode on all of that alone, so I don't want to bore you over the next few minutes, but we all saw the clips from Zuck's infamous, like seriously infamous, like I can't believe we're actually saying the quiet part out loud. We were right the whole time, infamous interview on the Joe Rogan Experience, where he literally just admitted out loud to censoring accounts and stories that were spreading conversation. I won't even say misinformation because it was real, true information. We just called it lies and propaganda at the time about COVID-19 and how we were handling the lockdowns and the vaccines. There was censorship related to the Hunter Biden laptop story and how they censored these stories as soon as the Biden administration picked up the phone to demand that they be taken down. And if you haven't heard any of this, you can listen to Mark Zuckerberg tell you this himself. Let's roll a clip from the Joe Rogan Experience interview.
When they were trying to roll out the vaccine program. And I'm generally like pretty pro rolling out vaccines. I think on balance, the vaccines are more positive than negative, but I think that while they're trying to push that program, they also tried to censor anyone who is basically arguing against it. And they pushed us super hard to take down things that were true, right? I mean, they basically pushed us and said, you know, anything that says that vaccines might have side effects, you basically need to take down.
So that all came out. But now this week, there's a new op-ed in the USA Today calling Meta and Mark Zuckerberg free speech champions, which I find fascinating. The author of the piece is a professor down the street at George Washington University. His name is Jonathan Turley. And he says that he had a chance to sit down with the Meta Chief Global Affairs Officer, whose name is Joel Kaplan, about the platform's plans to completely restore free speech and to protect digital free expression on Facebook, on Instagram, everywhere. And he was very pleasantly surprised by what he heard. Joel Kaplan had this to say to our author: content was previously being taken down that should have not been taken down. We have reduced over-enforcement. That's an interesting buzzword. And we know the platform, especially Instagram, is already pivoting to community notes instead of fact-checking. Thank God for that, by the way, because the number of times I had to argue with fact-checkers for years about certain stories to finally see them restored months or years later. Thank you, Meta, for the community notes. That is such a preferable situation. They're not censoring specific political content like they used to, where you had to go in on the back end and hit a specific setting to say you still wanted to see political content. And they're kind of committed to protecting the diversity of opinions. And of course, there are caveats to this. We're seeing dramatically increasing censorship across the European Union, specifically with the EU Digital Services Act. That is kind of the law. It's just the law of the land. So every platform from TikTok to Meta and everything in between has to comply at this moment in time. And I'm very, very hopeful that some sort of action will be taken on this to at least pressure the EU to get rid of the DSA. For any of you who might be listening in Europe, it is a horrible situation that you're living in. And there's not much we can do about it until the actual law is changed. And maybe the return to censorship could be right around the corner and dramatically change again with a new president of the United States if we happen to go back into the bygone era of leftism like we saw in the Biden administration. But I will say this as the story begins to unfold about TikTok and as the story begins to unfold about Meta over the last few months. The only way we can really expect real change to continue happening to protect free speech and do the right thing is when we applaud it, when it does seem to happen from these platforms. I have had an anecdotal experience on both TikTok and Instagram over the last year or so, seeing way less posts be taken down, way less fact-checking, certainly no brush up against the community guidelines for saying things that are objectively true, like men cannot be women and women cannot be men. And I have to give kudos to every social media platform, namely today, Facebook, Instagram, and anything else governed by Meta, for taking steps in the right direction to protect our ability to have an honest intellectual conversation about the biggest issues of our time. You know, it's kind of like somebody in your life who you've been really frustrated with and who has been treating you poorly for a really long time. If it's a friend or your dad or a family member or even a boyfriend, right? The only thing you can reasonably expect from somebody is to treat you better the next day and to walk away from the bad behavior and replace it with good behavior. You can hold on to a grudge and be really angry about that for a very long time. And I do think we do need to be very cautious about this direction for social media platforms, because it certainly isn't cemented in stone that free speech is protected, period, full stop. This is only the very first step in that conversation. But the only thing we can ask of them is to admit, hey, what we did was wrong. We shouldn't have done it. We apologize for having done it, which I've heard now from Mark Zuckerberg on this interview train that he's been doing for the last several months. And here's what we're doing to fix it. And then to actually follow through, which cautiously I'm seeing with TikTok, with Instagram, with Facebook, and I hope to see with other platforms like YouTube and everything else on the internet as well. I am cautiously incredibly optimistic about the future of digital free speech, but now we owe it to ourselves to ask, how do we do something permanently to support it? That might look like a public policy change. It might look like passing a law through Congress. It could look like more executive action from the Trump administration. Maybe it's Donald Trump putting pressure on the EU on all of our trade deals and tariffs to specifically go after insane laws that prevent our European brothers and sisters from having honest, truth-seeking conversations like we do here on the Isabel Brown Show and the Daily Wire. I don't know what the exact answer is, but I just had to share that with you because it seems like nature is healing and we are headed in the right direction. I am here for it. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. That's a wrap for the show today. I'm so psyched for you guys to see all of the other topics we have in store. Don't forget to smash that subscribe or follow button wherever you are listening to this podcast. Can't wait to see you guys soon.